Part 1, Section 2 of The Dark Flower. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Betsy Walker, Santa Fe, New Mexico. The Dark Flower by John Galsworthy, Section 2. When Anna Stormer came into the study, she found her husband standing at the window with his head a little on one side, a tall, long-legged figure in clothes of a pleasant tweed, and wearing a low, turn-over collar, not common in those days, and a blue silk tie, which she had knitted, strung through a ring. He was humming and gently tapping the window pane with his well-kept fingernails. Though celebrated for the amount of work he got through, she never caught him doing any in this house of theirs, chosen because it was more than a half a mile away from the college, which held the dear young clowns, as he called them, of whom he was tutor. He did not turn. It was not, of course, his habit to notice what was not absolutely necessary, but she felt that he was aware of her. She came to the window seat and sat down. He looked round at that and said, "Ah." It was a murmur almost of admiration, not usual from him, since, with the exception of certain portions of the classics, it was hardly his custom to admire. But she knew that she was looking her best sitting there, her really beautiful figure poised, the sun shining on her brown hair and brightening her deep-set ice-green eyes under their black lashes. It was sometimes a great comfort to her that she remained so good-looking. It would have been an added vexation indeed to have felt that she ruffled her husband's fastidiousness. Even so, her cheekbones were too high for his taste, symbols of that something in her character which did not go with his. The dash of desperation, of vividness, that lack of a certain English smoothness, which always annoyed him. "Harold," she would never quite flatten her R's, "I want to go to the mountains this year." The mountains. She had not seen them since that season at San Martino di Castrosa 12 years ago, which had ended in her marrying him. Nostalgia. "I don't know what that means. I am homesick. Can we go?" "If you like, why not? But no leading up the Cimone della Pala for me." She knew what he meant by that. No romance. How splendidly he had led that day. She almost worshipped him. What blindness! What distortion! Was it really the same man, standing there with those bright, doubting eyes with gray already in his hair? Yes, romance was over, and she sat silent, looking out into the street, that little old street into which she looked day and night. A figure passed out there, came to the door and rang. She said softly, "Here is Mark Lennon." She felt her husband's eyes rest on her for just a moment, knew that he had turned, heard him murmur, "Ah, the angel clown." And, quite still, she waited for the door to open. There was the boy, with his blessed dark head, and his shy, gentle gravity, and his essay in his hand. "Well, Lennon, how's old Noll? Hypocrite of genius, eh? Drop! Let's get him over." Motionless from her seat at the window, she watched those two figures at the table, the boy reading in his queer, velvety bass voice, her husband leaning back with the tips of his fingers pressed together, his head a little on one side, and that faint, satiric smile which never reached his eyes. Yes, he was dozing, falling asleep, and the boy, not seeing, was going on. Then he came to the end and glanced up. What eyes he had! Other boys would have laughed, but he looked almost sorry. She heard him murmur, "I'm awfully sorry, sir." "Ah, Lennon, you caught me. Fact is, terms fagged me out. We're going to the mountains. Ever been to the mountains?" "What? Never?" "You should come with us, eh? What do you say, Anna? Don't you think this young man ought to come with us?" She got up and stood staring at them both. Had she heard aright? Then she answered very gravely, Yes, I think he ought. Good. We'll get him to lead up the Cimone della Pala. End of Section 2. Recording by Betsy Walker.